Hello, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with psychicprotection and this is our monthly YouTube live. So for those who are watching the replay, I'll be starting the official class with our important content at about 5 minutes in. And so you're welcome to skip ahead. Right now, we're going to welcome all of you who are joining live. And I want to be sure to announce the title of today's class, Healing the Trauma of Spiritual Warfare. Healing the Trauma of Spiritual Warfare. I've never taught a YouTube class on this. I have talked about it in my two programs, my group mentoring program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and the self-study program, the Psychic Protection Solution, which you can find out about on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. So I have talked about healing trauma and given resources in those programs, but this is the first time that I'm talking about it in the free class format. So I'm really excited to share some information that will be new to those of you who are not in my programs. So I've actually never seen or heard any other spiritual teacher talk about what I'm going to share with you today. But when I share this information with you, it's going to seem obvious. It's like you don't realize it until it's crystal clear and it's pointed out. So this is all pretty common sense, but you may not have realized it. You may not have realized some of these things that I'm going to explain to you about how trauma and spiritual warfare work together. So before we get into the content, I just want to shout out to those of you who are here live. Please go ahead and let me know if you can hear me okay. And go ahead and comment in the chat so we can test the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. And I see some wonderful people commenting. And I'm just so blessed to be here with all of you. Thank you for being truth seekers and for showing up. And I just love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. So the Sin City Mama is saying, hi, Maya. Evelyn is saying, hello from the Netherlands. And Sin City Mama says, I've never seen your hair like that before. It's freshly washed. But yeah, usually I wear it other ways. So ta-da, here we are. Please let us know where you're joining from. Let me go ahead and get the announcements out of the way while people are joining. That way we can try to start the class content on time. Yeah, okay. Taking care of comments. Okay. Cute and Cloudy says, hi, Maya. First time joining. Bad timing. I'm going to rest as I'm having a headache. Oh, I'm really sorry. I totally understand. I had a migraine last month's free class, which is why I was a little brain foggy while I was trying to teach. So I have a lot of empathy for you having a headache. You can always watch the replay, but if you want to stay with us and just turn the volume down, you're welcome to do that too. So just take good care of yourself. Camilla, hi from the USA. Camilla says, I'm an Indian American. Awesome. Yes, Indian Russian. Today, so those of you who are just joining, again, today's class is Healing the Trauma of Spiritual Warfare. And I'm going to be talking about some things that I've never heard any other spiritual teachers talk about. Maybe they have. I haven't seen it anywhere. So I think, like I said before, once I point some of these things out about trauma and spiritual warfare, it's going to seem like common sense, but it's also going to blow your mind. So I hope you'll stay with us today. And I'm also going to share some tips at the end. And there's one tip that is very powerful, that it's very simple yet very powerful. So if you are experiencing spiritual warfare right now, psychic attack, entity intrusions, the tip that I give at the end, I think is going to be really helpful. And another comment. Hello, Maya. Jamie L. here from Rhode Island. Looking forward to hearing this new stuff. Awesome. So just a couple of like little announcements before we start. And it's already at 5 minutes. So, but I'm going to go ahead and make announcements. And then we'll start our class content. So first of all, I want to say thank you for being patient with me as the last handful of months I've been getting used to the YouTube live format. And first couple of months we had some like trolls on here, and I had to learn how to set the settings differently. So just a reminder that there are settings in place to help minimize spammers and stuff like that. And it's not to hold you guys back. But I think one of the things is that you could only comment every like minute or 3 minutes or something like that. And it's just to keep like mega spam from pouring in so that there's only real comments. So please don't worry if, you post a comment and it takes a minute for it to show up. Also, as I'm getting used to this format, I wanted to let you know that today I'm going to try to do things a little bit differently, where I might not read every single comment out loud. I was kind of trying to do that last time. And sometimes if there are a lot of comments that are off topic, it kind of takes us on this winding path. And it was okay last time because we got into some interesting topics. But I've made a decision that today it's okay if you use the chat and say hi to each other and that sort of thing. But, any questions or comments that are not really in the scope of our topic, I'm just going to wave past those. And but you're welcome to post whatever you want, as long as it's like kind and friendly. Okay, so again, today's topic is healing the trauma of spiritual warfare. What I'm going to share with you is based on all of the client and student work that I've done over the last decade. These are things that I've seen. Grab a pen and paper. If you haven't already, grab a cup of tea or a cup of water. And I think I missed a couple comments. Oh, no, I think we're good. Okay. While you're grabbing your notebook and your water, quick announcements. Okay, looking at my notes so I don't forget anything. Announcements. Oh, so announcement number 1, remember that this YouTube Live is now at a new day and time. We had a little bit of adjustment period, and it's now Thursdays at noon Pacific. So you can adjust for your time zone, or what makes it really easy is about a week before the YouTube Live, I always schedule the YouTube Live ahead of time, so you can click on it and it will show you what the class is in your time zone. Okay. I had a little tickle in my throat. Ocean Soul is asking, are we allowed to ask for possible future live topics? If no worries. Yeah, save that till the end though. Just make a little mental note that when we're kind of coming to an end, you can go ahead and ask then. I do love getting requests for future topics. And I know what we're doing next month. It's all about religious curses and how people use religion to curse people, even mainstream religion. Even the commonly accepted mainstream religions, people use those religions to curse people. They will pray in such a way that they're cursing people. We're going to talk about that. And I'm a very religiously tolerant person. So this is not, that class next month is not going to be about bashing any certain religions. But I think that it's important to understand that pretty much every religion has people that misutilize the prayer practices and the ritual practices in order to curse people. And we're going to talk about several ways that that's done. So that's going to be a really interesting one. Okay. All right. So I already mentioned my 2 programs. If you missed that, you can go back and listen from the beginning. Do know that I have a handful of books that are available on Amazon. So you can just look up my name, Maya Zahira, and there's books on psychic attack and spiritual matters. Also, there's a book about abusive spiritual teachers, which is again in the news. Well, it's about a month ago. It was really, really in the news. Abusive spiritual teachers. It's always coming up in the news. So there's a book about that. And there's also a book about false light entities. So you can look that up on Amazon. And a couple of the books are also on Audible. Some of you, I want to make a reminder here. Some of you were asking about the books on Audible. And I did some research on it. And very long story short, the books that so I had my last 2 books made available with AI audiobook, artificial intelligence voice. I know not everyone loves that, but the tricky part was that the first 2 books I had to pay because long story short, it's just not like me doing my own audiobook. That's not in the cards right now. So the only other way to do it was to hire someone and have them create it. And it's about $800 to $1,000 for each book. So it was like a big investment, a big hairy deal that I had to save up money for each book. And when the AI option came out, I was like, awesome, it's free. I just clicked and it was immediately available. But it's all those AI audiobooks, my last 2 books, are available on Amazon only. It doesn't transfer over to Audible like the other ones did. So I'm going to have to save up my pennies again and work on getting the other 2 books published in the traditional way with a voice actor doing it. So just wanted you all to know I did some research on that, what was going on, why it wasn't showing up in Audible. And lastly, if you would like more information, you can go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, where you can get free access to a quiz. Are you under psychic attack? And even if you don't think that you are right now, I think you will find the quiz to be very informative, so that if you ever experience spiritual warfare in the future, an entity issue or someone sending you psychic attack, you'll know how to identify it. So whether you're just planning for the future, like plan for the worst, hope for the best, like be informed just in case, or if you are going through it or you've gone through that sort of thing in the past, that quiz will be very informative. So you just put your email in there and you get that sent to you via email, and it's very, very helpful. Okay. And Sin City Mama says, I have asked my mom to stop praying for certain things, LOL, but I think she still does. Yeah, about next month's topic. Absolutely. So, Riker, just so you know, you're going to be blocked, so you may as well go bye-bye. Okay. All right. So to today's topic, let me ask you a question. Actually, let me see if I'm able to. Yeah, we can do it right here. Remove. Bye. Put user in a timeout. Hide user from this channel. Report. Bye. Okay, sorry, it's taking a minute. Remove. Okay. Trolls are supposed to be adorable, cute little dolls, not annoying. Maybe that was a bot. That might have been not even a real person, but bye. Okay, so that was fun. And we're 15 minutes in. Apologies to those of you who heard me say that I was going to start at 5 minutes, but this is casual. This is casual time. We're having a casual teaching corner right now. Ocean Soul says that was very weird. It's apparent. I researched it. Apparently, it's very normal on lives. Vlad says much love and support from Serbia. Hello. Awesome. I love all of the international people. So I just love that you're here. Love that you're here. Okay, let me ask you a question. We're diving in now, officially. Let me ask you a question. If you are currently experiencing any type of psychic attack, spiritual warfare, entity interference, anything like that, or if you have in the past, have you ever noticed that those issues get worse, the symptoms of psychic attack, the symptoms of the entity intrusions? Have you noticed, and there's so many symptoms, we're not going to go over what those are today, but have you ever noticed that those symptoms get worse when you are afraid, stressed, or feeling traumatized or overwhelmed by the situation? So when you're afraid, the symptoms get worse. Have you ever noticed that? Or is this the first time that you're having this aha moment and go, oh, I never really thought about it that way? So now I'm going to invite you in the future, when you're having those experiences, notice if you're in a fear state or like an overwhelmed, ungrounded state. And how your symptoms are in that state versus if you're feeling very calm, grounded, nervous system regulated kind of state. Okay. So go ahead and share in the comments. Go ahead and share in the comments. Have you ever noticed this? Have you noticed it when you're feeling afraid? Does the attack seem to get worse? Okay. Do the symptoms seem to get worse? Or have you never thought about it before, and now what epiphanies are you having? So let's chat about this a little bit. And those of you who are watching the replay, I haven't given you all a shout out yet. So a shout out to you, and feel free to share in the comments in the replay. Go ahead and share what your experience has been regarding fear. Okay, thank you, Sin City Mama, giving me a little heads up about something. Awesome. So let me know what you think. Okay, so while we're waiting for comments to come through, I'm just going to keep on going. We are talking about trauma today, so make sure that you are in a safe space and that you have the support that you need. If you're feeling highly triggered and highly traumatized, now might not be the best time to listen to this, but just know that I'm not going to be talking about scary topics in today's class. I'm not going to be talking really about the symptoms and the scenarios of being attacked and harassed by spiritual forces. We're not going to really get into those details. Instead, we're going to be talking about like trauma in general and how it impacts. But just wanted to say, make sure you're in a good space. And I am not a therapist, so I want to be really clear about that. I am not speaking with the authority of a therapist or someone with a degree in psychology. Okay. My training is in education, and in spiritual matters. So that's the authority, the knowledge level that I'm coming to you from. So keep that in mind. Vlad says, yes, fear is absolutely the biggest obstacle in everything we do, both on a physical and a spiritual level. Knowledge and love are what help overcome it. Yeah, so Sin City Mama is asking me to repeat the question. So take a moment and think, if you're currently experiencing spiritual warfare, or if you have in the past, have you ever noticed that the negative spiritual issues get worse when you're afraid or stressed or traumatized or overwhelmed? Does it feel like the attack ramps up when you're afraid versus when you're calm and regulated? Okay. And of course, that's a very loaded question, because you could probably assume, like, yes, it is going, like, the spiritual warfare is going to be worse when you're ungrounded, when you're in a traumatized state, when you are in a fear state. Okay, let's get into our points. I'm going to talk about 4 key points today. And excuse me, I do recommend that you take notes. Sin City Mama says, I feel like they happen in tandem. Like, the whole point of the spiritual attack is to elicit fear. You bring up a really good point, because psychic attack doesn't just happen when you're in fear. It can happen in any emotional state. But what you're bringing up is so important. It's that whatever the source of spiritual warfare is, if it's an entity or someone is sending a psychic attack or whatever, the whole idea is to get you destabilized so that the attack can come through even more strongly. So let's say you're feeling good, you're having a pretty decent day, and then something weird gets sent your way, or a few weird things get sent your way, and then it destabilizes you. Maybe makes you feel ungrounded or scattered or upset, triggered, or in fear. And that's actually one of the first steps that I teach about, that happens in the typical steps of a psychic attack, are that no matter what state you're in, no matter, like, if you're feeling good or you're not feeling good, whatever, the first tactic is to get you destabilized more. So you've reminded me of a really important point there. Thank you for that. And so you don't have to be in a mega fear state for psychic attack to start ramping up. But when you start to notice it, you go, oh, okay, there's an attempt to throw me off and to trigger me or to put me in fear. And so I'm going to come back to an emotionally regulated, calm state, which, if it's just starting, if it's at the very, very beginning, you can often shut down the psychic attack right away at the start, where it never gets a chance to ramp up, just by coming into emotional regulation. But obviously, if you've been dealing with something for like 3 years, it's already taken hold. But you can still, these things that I'm going to share with you will still be very helpful. Ocean Soul says, insight, trauma/abuse creates more susceptibility to dark forces attack and spiritual warfare, and vice versa. It goes both ways, and it makes sense. Yes. And this is why I'm so glad that we're here as a group instead of me just pre-recording, because you're all bringing up, there's more comments coming through, you're bringing up ideas and concepts that are important and that need to be shared, that are the same but a little bit different than what's on my list. So I'm really grateful for your comments. Vlad is saying, I think the real question is what to anchor yourself to, and how to find peace in difficult moments. That's different for each of us, what gives us strength and keeps us grounded. Another great comment. Thank you. Sin City Mama says, I have to carefully and deliberately make sure that my reaction is from a calm place instead of that fear response. Otherwise, it's a trap for spiritual attack. Absolutely. Okay, key points. 4 key points. Number 1, and like I said, these things are going to seem obvious, but you may not have thought of it until now. So number 1, fear and hypervigilance. Fear, being in a fear state and in a hypervigilant state, especially long term, that weakens the aura. And I want to repeat that again. Being in a fear state and in a hypervigilant, like constantly watching for danger is what hypervigilance means. Being in a hypervigilant state all the time, that actually weakens the aura. And when your energy field is weaker, then it's easier for negative interference to get in. But I want to be clear, it's only natural to have fear. It's only natural and human to have fear, to feel fear either consciously or even just subconsciously on a nervous system level when there's something foreign trying to get into your energy field. So that's normal. So we don't need to like beat ourselves up that, oh my God, I haven't had a moment of feeling fear. But we want to recognize that if you stay in that state long term, it definitely weakens the aura. And so this like constant vigilance, constantly scanning for danger in your energy field, whether you're visually looking around or if you are intuitive or psychic and you're constantly checking, is there anything in my space? And I had to really learn this the hard way because I was constantly scanning and making sure that my space was clear. But what that ended up doing was it was giving things a doorway in. Imagine this, that if you're clairvoyant like I am and you're constantly scanning, like, okay, making sure there's no entities, I've got all my energy boundaries that work really well, but I'm checking like even further out, is there anything that's dangerous? And then I see something, but when I see it, it sees me, and then it has a doorway in. And so if you're constantly scanning for danger, it does this weird convoluted thing where it ends up making a connection with the things that you're trying to avoid. So this constant scanning is not necessarily a good idea. And when you're in constant fear, it puts a strain on your aura and your boundaries become weak. So again, pretty common sense, but want to, really make it super clear so you understand that it actually makes you more vulnerable to spiritual warfare. Before we go on to the next one, let's read comments. Ocean Soul says, poor physical health makes a person more vulnerable to further attacks. This is a big issue for me at the moment and can be very hard, more of a reason to value good health and bettering that. Yes, that's true also. Yeah. Today, since we're talking about trauma, we're talking about like your mental state and your thoughts and your emotional state, how much that impacts, but you're bringing up a side topic, which is physical well-being. Yeah. Okay, let me get a drink before we go on to number 2. Now this number 2 might blow your mind. This one I don't think is common sense for most people. I had to see this in action with all the clients that I was working with, and I saw it in action with myself. I had direct experiences with this as well. And I think the reason for that was so that I could learn from it and know exactly what it feels like so that I can say this with authority. I gotta remove someone else. So silly. Okay. Somebody asking about chicken nuggets. I don't know, whatever. I guess the trolls are just for like comedy relief during a serious topic. Okay, this is going to blow your mind. Those of you who are in my academy, you've already heard me talk about this. But here's the deal. Trauma symptoms. So the way that a person's mind and physical physiology respond, like how the body expresses trauma, actually can mimic the same symptoms as psychic attack and entity interference. Now let me explain. Prepare for your mind to be blown. Okay. And so I hope you find this useful. I'm going to look at my list so I don't leave anything off. And I just want to emphasize, I've experienced this directly, so I know what this is. Okay. Whew. Trauma symptoms can include some of these things that I'm going to list, but these are also symptoms that people might feel when they're being attacked. Okay. So that's where it gets tricky. So examples of symptoms, heat, feeling hot flash, or cold, freezing cold. So temperature, you could be hot, could be cold, or it could fluctuate. So also sensations of tingling on certain parts of your body, tingling or pressure on the body or in the body, feeling vertigo, any level of vertigo from a little bit of like tilty feeling to full on room spinning. But here's where this symptom gets really interesting. When someone is lying in bed, and let's say they have had experiences with psychic attack while they were in bed, and that included feeling like the bed was shaking or tilting. And I experienced this, where it is a medical fact, because I've talked with a doctor about this, because I was having this experience, that when the nervous system is extremely dysregulated, as in like dysautonomia, the autonomic nervous system is totally dysregulated, it can cause vertigo. Not just vertigo, but when you lie down in bed, it will feel like the bed is vibrating or tilting or moving. Just like in a paranormal situation where those paranormal forces are shaking the bed. Is your mind blown yet? Okay. And I've literally experienced this, where there was no longer the entity issues, where the entity had been cleared like months before, but the trauma of the situation still continued, and that my nervous system was whacked out, and I was having the vibrating bed and the tilting bed. Okay. It is a real thing, and you can look it up. So also lightheadedness and heart palpitations. So when someone's being psychically attacked, especially if it's severe, if it's like severe entity intrusion, or someone is sending super dark black magic, or there's someone who has astral traveled into your space, and it might cause your heart to like be pounding out of your chest. That's a standard response to something unsafe being in your energy field. But then even after that issue is no longer in the picture, a person can, because they've been possibly traumatized by that situation, they can still have the lightheadedness, the heart pounding, even months after, sometimes years after. And this is where it gets tricky, is that they might think that the attack is still happening, even if it's not still happening, because they're having the nervous system dysregulation, trauma response. And then it also gets tricky where sometimes there is still that negative spiritual interference happening. There's still some of that happening. At the same time, it's mixed in with the person's own nervous system dysregulation, also adding symptoms or amplifying the symptoms. Also, I left off a symptom, intrusive thoughts. That's also another thing that can happen in that whole list of symptoms, of the trauma symptoms that can mimic psychic attack or entity intrusion. Okay. Let me read some comments. Sin City Mama says, my neurologist called the first one heat and cold dysregulation. Yes, that's one term for it. Yeah. Sin City Mama, internal tremors for the last one. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's different, my doctor calls it internal shakiness. So I don't think there's official terms for all of it. The nervous system the nervous system still be traumatized even though my logical mind is unaware of the residual effects? Yes. Yes. So I say this from direct experience, that even if a person, let's say they've like mentally worked through the negative spiritual situation and like mentally they feel good about it, or they feel okay, resolved about the situation, but the nervous system is still having its trauma response. So the mind, the brain, the thoughts, even your emotions, you might be feeling like, oh, I'm having a good day, I feel uplifted. But the nervous system, your nervous system is still having a response of feeling unsafe. And that's on a physiological, it's on a physical level. So one of my pet peeves has been when like New Agers and spiritual people will say, you know, like, well, just focus on the positive. Well, if your nervous system is still in a trauma response, then positive vibes don't fix that. And I know that for a fact. Just thinking positive thoughts doesn't fix it. Being present with yourself, like really just being with yourself and being calm and present, that helps. But like the positive vibes thing actually makes it worse, because your body, your nervous system feels like you're not listening to the danger signals that it's trying to give. Ocean Soul, can false light or dark forces cause psychosis? I have had fear. Okay, that's a little bit off topic, and we've already talked about that. You know, we've already talked about it. Okay. Let me get a drink, take a breath, and we're going to go on to number 3. Number 3. Fear itself can amplify negative spiritual interference. So whatever negative energy is coming in, fear turns up the volume. And if you personally are going through any type of spiritual warfare right now, I want you to notice, just have this self-awareness that the next time something starts to ramp up, notice that if you go into fear, which don't judge yourself for that because it's only normal, happens to all of us. If you go into fear, do you notice how all of a sudden the symptoms, whatever the symptoms might be, the symptoms is like the volume gets turned way up. It all gets amplified. So this is why it's really good to develop a lot of self-awareness and to practice focusing your mind. It's easier said than done. But like when you get into the fear response, to refocus out of that. And I'm going to teach you something when we get into the tips at the end. I'll teach you a way that you can move out of fear. So whatever negative energy is coming in, fear turns up the volume and makes it feel more intense. It also gives that spiritual force more power over you. So when you're in fear, it gives the entity or the whatever the force is that's trying to get at you, it gives it more power. And you don't want that. You don't want to give it more power. So this is something that I've seen firsthand. And it's so hard to not feel afraid if you're dealing with an entity or some type of major psychic attack. It's difficult to not feel fear. But I've seen this firsthand, that when you have a fear response to, let's say, an entity or some other force, it's like it gives it an immediate access point. Especially with the really dark entities, I've noticed that if you can train yourself to stay emotionally regulated and to not get into fear, and to maybe do some protection practices, but not out of fear, just like, okay, I need to do this. And then just not even think about the fear. That's helpful. But if you get into fear, like, oh my God, I think it's going to attack me, all this bad stuff is going to happen. It's like it gives it an access point. It's like it opens the door for it. And even if, because I teach my students how to set up all this certain protocol for energy boundaries around your energy field and how to protect yourself. But what I've seen again and again is that your boundaries could be perfect. But if you are afraid of the thing, whatever it is, it still gives it like a portal or a doorway in. That's how it gets in. So it's like this magic formula. If you can become the martial artist, the martial arts master who stays centered, like you could aspire to this. We all have fear sometimes, but the martial artist, the master martial artist who doesn't get thrown off center, that is even more powerful than the most perfect grids of protection you could possibly have. Okay. Vlad says, in my own experience, I've found that fear tends to fade the more I learn and the more I grow through knowledge. So the more I know, the less fear, the less I fear, sometimes not at all. That's a great point. Sin City Mama says, yes, I think confidence is one of the opposing energies for fear. Yes, absolutely. And knowledge gives me more confidence. Awesome. All very good points. Okay. Take a breath. Everybody get a little drink of whatever you're drinking. That's going to just help you stay calm and centered. So I was trying not to slurp. Sorry about that. So I already kind of jumped ahead and talked about this a little bit, but point number four is that calming the fear response strengthens protection. So again, you could have the most perfect, like you could have some like advanced occult protocol for protections around your energy field, or you could have the standard version of protection around your energy field. But if you have fear, then whatever it is going to have direct access in. So remember, nervous system regulation, groundedness, being centered, all of that is a superpower. So like the master martial artist example that I gave a moment ago, that if you can be like the calm, wise martial artist who has the knowledge and the wisdom, and they know that like if you see like in the movies where like the wise master martial artist is in a battle with some like young, strong martial artist who's trying to prove themselves, and the younger, less wise martial artist is like doing all of the things, all the kicks and the strikes and everything, and putting forth all this effort. And the master martial artist just like moves to one side, moves to the other side, barely has to do anything, and then does one strike, boom, with minimal effort, and the other person is down for the count, right? So when we understand the trauma response and the fear response versus calm and regulated, the more calm and regulated you are, the less efforting you have to do for all the protection. Okay? So I do teach all sorts of protection methods because it takes a while to get to this like calm, regulated state where nothing can penetrate. It takes a while to get to that state for most people. So it's good to use all the tools. Okay, so let's read some comments. Ocean Soul says, that makes sense, Maya. I have been wondering for a while now why the daily protocol is not feeling like it's helping much right now. I realize fear of the attacks entities are the reason. Yes, that is it. And mental rumination, because I know you. the mental rumination, and I know from our work before, not being grounded is a big thing for you. So like all of that is kind of part of the same paradigm, right? So I remember there were lots of times where your energy boundaries were perfect, but you were ungrounded. And so that was a big part of the issue. So go ground today after we're done. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so those are the 4 points. Do you have any questions or thoughts about today's topic? Not random questions, not today, but about today's topic, about how trauma impacts the experience of psychic attack and spiritual warfare. So I'm going to keep going. You can share questions or thoughts, comments. I have 3 tips to share with you today. Okay, tip number 1. Do your best to interrupt fear cycles early. So notice, I have an itchy nose today, you guys. Sorry. We're not going to edit that out. We're going to just be real. Interrupt fear cycles early. Notice when you begin spiraling into hypervigilance. Even if it's not hypervigilance, like we just talked about a minute ago, if you tend to become ungrounded and go into negative thought loops, that's basically the same thing. So notice when you go into a fear response, hypervigilance, I gotta watch out, or ungrounded, negative thought loops, all of that's basically part of the same ball of wax. Notice when you start to spiral into that. So this does take some practice of self-awareness. Notice, and notice that I didn't say judge when you start to spiral. We're not going to judge. That doesn't help at all. But you just notice and you go, oh, okay, I notice. I notice. Okay, so you stop, and so then you shift focus. I'm going to give you a few general ideas on shifting focus. We go a lot more into this in my 2 programs, but you're going to shift focus away from the hypervigilance to things like grounding. And by grounding, I mean like go outside and put your butt on the earth. Like, yeah, you could do a grounding visualization. That's okay. If that's like if your environment is such, if it's like below freezing and there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, you can visualize grounding and connect roots into the earth. But your number 1 best way is to do direct grounding. Go put your feet on the ground or your butt on the ground. Doing breath work, slow breathing. There's a lot of breath work out there. I'm just a big fan of hands on the heart and slow, deep breaths, which creates presence, a sense of presence, being with yourself. Instead of, a lot of people are absent. They're kind of like their energy is like out here, their mind is out here. So this is just very simple practice of hands on the heart. Breathing, slow breathing, and that brings you into presence with yourself. And that is very regulating. Any calming practices, and we're all unique. What's calming for you might not be calming for someone else. Whatever's calming for you. And also refocusing your mind. And I've had to do a lot of this over the years where, I'd have some type of negative interference trying to come in, and I would refocus my mind on something that's happy or comforting. And because a lot of times the entity or the negative force it's trying to get your attention. It wants your attention. Don't give it attention. Focus on something else. And if that means go watch a funny movie, because it's hard for you to control your mind. So maybe it's hard for you. So you go watch a funny movie so you don't have to try. You can just be in the laughter of the funny movie. So that's tip number 1. Notice when you begin spiraling into hypervigilance and shift your focus to grounding, breathing, emotionally and physically regulating activities. Could be slow yoga. Like, we're all different. We all have different things. It could be going for a gentle swim. And for someone else who is afraid of water, that's not going to be regulating. So you find what's calming for you and find something that's easy that you can do in the moment. Because let's say you can't always go swimming, or you can't always, certain things you can't always do, but like hand on the heart, taking breaths, that's something you can do anywhere. So find at least one thing that works for you that you can do anywhere, anytime. Before we go on to the next one, let's read questions and comments. Sin City Mama says, I'm wondering how different types of trauma interact. Ooh, good. Good point. Physical trauma, mental trauma, and spiritual trauma. It's like a big trauma soup that I'm wading through. Could it have spiritual origin outside this life? I love this comment because you bring up a really important point that there's all these different levels of trauma. So just acknowledging that without having the perfect answer to how to solve that, just acknowledging there's physical trauma of like having your body harmed or physical pain, physical suffering, mental trauma, and spiritual trauma, mental and emotional trauma, spiritual trauma. Your question, could it have origin outside of this life? Absolutely. Any of these issues can. Yeah, Yaz from Alcatraz says, sometimes weather changes influence our mood or how we approach being grounded or not. Another great point. So not just weather changes, but cosmic weather as well. So local weather, like air pressure changes, storm front coming in, that sort of thing, but also cosmic weather, like things going on with the sun, cycles of the moon, planetary alignments, all of that, sun events, that sort of thing. And so many other things can affect our mood. So it's not always easy to just say, oh, just take some breaths and you're going to feel better. Because like some people have had, and I can attest to this myself, where there's a physiological thing happening that's causing emotions. So for some people that can be mental health imbalances where the brain chemicals are out of balance. For me, I was having an experience of some dysregulation in my nervous system that was causing sometimes anxiety or sometimes sadness. And I thought that was very interesting. Like, oh, there would be a surge of adrenaline because my system was out of whack. So a surge of adrenaline. So it's not just as easy as, oh, just ground and you'll feel all better. I think we need to acknowledge and honor the fact that there are sometimes other factors contributing, but we give grace to all of it. We just do our best. Yeah. Yes, and Ocean Soul is pointing out that humor can be a really good approach when we're having negative thought loops. Ocean Soul says, I love Hand on the Heart. It feels like coming home and feels more at peace when I focus. Vlad says, trauma and fear can derail spiritual growth, leading people to withdraw and reject what they once explored as something dark or even satanic. Yes. I could go down a whole rabbit hole with that one, but I love your comment. Continuing, they may withdraw and seek comfort in established belief systems, even to the point of labeling everything they previously explored as wrong or misguided. Yes, I totally agree with that. Continuing, I've personally seen this happen with several very strong spiritual teachers in the past. Yeah, there's a ton of like testimonials from like one belief system to another belief system on YouTube. And it's really fascinating, like the fear-based thinking and the like very polarized thinking. Like, let's say someone was taking part in some type of, I'm not even going to be specific. It's not even necessary. They've been taking part in some type of spiritual practice and they had a negative experience. Maybe they had an encounter with a false light entity, like a being that they thought was positive that turned out to be negative, And then they made that mean that the entire spiritual practice that they were doing is evil or dangerous or demonic. So they go to this like opposing religion or spiritual view, and then they say all that over there is evil and it's all demonic. So it's very interesting to see how people do that. There's a ton of that on YouTube. Evelyn says, what also can help shift your focus from trauma or psychic attack is doing something creative. Yes. Another reason why I'm so glad we're all sharing, because that was not on my list, and I'm glad you shared that. That's a really valuable idea. Anita says, I'm being spiritually attacked and there is too much stuff happening to me. I can't even get my sanity. I can't do anything. People are being used against me and stuff happening with my children. I'm so sorry that's happening. I really invite you to, if you haven't already taken the quiz, I think that would be a good start. So you go to psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And that's free. The quiz is free. And it'll help give you clarity of what the symptoms are and what's going on. And then another step would be to consider the self-study program, the Psychic Protection Solution. I don't know if you're already in there or not, but just some things to consider. Because it's really hard to go through those things all by yourself. It's important to have support, however you find it. And Ocean Soul is saying, for sure, music, art, poetry. I think dark forces hate it when we express our souls. I agree. I think creative expression is a powerful way to overcome the issues and for our own healing. Ocean Soul, I want to thank you for that. And Evelyn as well. You've inspired me that the rest of this week I'm going to think of what creative things I can do this week. So if anyone else resonates with that, then that could be a project for you to do also. Another thing that has helped me, that helps me get out of the fear cycles that we talked about with tip number 1, interrupting fear cycles early. When I get into the negative thought loops, which is similar to fear, where I'm like, oh, everything is so bad, and like all the bad stuff. This thing has helped me so much, and it might sound really overly simple, but it's awesome, okay? Is that I will catch myself doing that. I'll go, oh, I'm doing that. I'm doing it. And then I stop and I look around and I find one thing to be grateful for. Now, I am not one of those Pollyanna spiritual people, and I actually find it really annoying when I'm going through, or when someone is going through something incredibly hard and somebody says, oh, just think of something to be grateful for. Like, oh, that is so annoying. Okay. It's so annoying, and it's very invalidating. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to invalidate your experience, but it's this wonderful, gentle practice of just finding the one thing in that moment that you can be grateful for. It is just a great way to shift. It doesn't mean that all the crap is better all of a sudden. But I live out in nature, and so for me, I'll be like, oh, there's a bird singing right now. Or, oh, I can see the flowers. Right? Like little things. It doesn't have to be, oh, my life is perfect and I have all this great stuff and a bajillion dollars and all my bills are paid. Like, it's not that. It's like the simple, what is something right now? Or, oh, my pet is here and they're so adorable. Or my children. Or I don't have children, but just like whatever your example is, it can be something very simple. Or, oh, this food is so yummy. Or let's say, oh, here's something that I've done is I was sick. Okay. And I was like, oh, this sucks and I'm sick. And I caught myself and I went into gratitude and I said, oh, I love my bed. I love my pillow. My bed is so comfortable. I love my bed. And it's true. I love my bed. And so every time I would get into that negative mindset, when I was sick, I would be like, I love my bed so much. So I would crawl into bed and I'd be like, I love my bed. And I would pull the covers up. Okay. So tip number 1, interrupt fear cycles early, or negative thought loop cycles early. Sin City Mama is saying, that's such a good point, Evelyn. I found this too, even when I was at my worst. If I forced myself to do the tiniest creative thing, it gave me a nudge back up, bit by bit, to get back up. I love it. Yeah, we're all sending hugs for Anita. Sending you loving kindness. Yeah, and Sin City Mama is reminding Anita that there's so much helpful free information here on the YouTube channel. So the programs that I offer do focus primarily on solving the issue, but the channel, I think there's like 200 free videos on the channel, something like that, to help you understand all of these spiritual warfare situations. Evelyn says, yes, because dark forces are so far removed from the divine that they mismatch with creativity. So true. Vlad says, I totally agree. I'm a professional painter and illustrator, and I can personally confirm that when I'm creating, my mindset is almost always in the healthiest place. Oh, I love that. Ocean Soul says, and I also believe that music is a powerful way of soul recovery or shamanic soul retrieval. It might sound a bit overboard, but I think there is truth to it. Music helps us come alive. I don't think it's overboard. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is my favorite. And once again, I came up with this tip, number 2, when I was struggling, and it helped me a lot. So feel free to adapt it to whatever works for you. So again, this has the hand or both hands on the heart. And take a breath just to center. And you say this. And you can adapt it to whatever's going on. You say, I can have this thought and still be okay. So let's say you're having like a terrible thoughts of fear, like, oh my God, this horrible thing is going to happen due to this spiritual attack. I can have this thought and still be okay. Or you would say, feeling, I can have this feeling and still be okay. So for example, we've talked about how fear amplifies the attack. So let's say you're having fear and you can't snap out of it. So you put your hand on your heart and you say, regarding the fear or whatever other so-called negative emotion, you say, I can have this feeling and still be okay. I can have this fear and still be okay. And so if anything else, if you can't get out of the fear, if you're terrified, because that happens, some of us have gone through the most severe spiritual warfare that we can't just be like, oh, I'm going to do what Maya said and go sit on the grass and now I'm not going to have any more fear. Well, that might not work because the situation is so severe. So let's say you can't move out of the fear or whatever the emotion is. Put your hand on your heart. I can have this feeling, I can have this fear and still be okay. And that does this magical thing of taking the power out of it, because you've become present with yourself, and you've accepted. You've given acceptance. When you give acceptance to something, it takes away that tug of war kind of thing. If you have ever noticed, when you're trying really hard to not do something, it's really hard. Like if you're on a diet and you're trying really hard to not eat certain foods, it's like, I can't. It's like this tug of war. There's this tension there. But if you accept something, you just say, like, I accept this. I can have this fear or this anger or this overwhelm and still be okay. Or let's say it's a sensation. Maybe you're feeling some type of physical sensations due to either an actual psychic attack or the trauma response, which I forgot to mention this earlier, but in my book, my second book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, I talk about something called the echo effect. And the echo effect is basically a trauma feedback loop. It's where even when the attack is not even happening anymore, the nervous system and the body and the energy system are still having a trauma feedback loop. And so whether you're having actual psychic attack or a trauma feedback loop, let's say you're having some type of physical sensations. It could be feeling like something, well, I'm not going to give examples. I'm not going to give examples because maybe it'll make you feel that way. But if you've experienced spiritual warfare, you know, you've probably had physical sensations. So you put your hand on your heart, take a breath. I can have this sensation and still be okay. I can have this sensation and still be okay. So you can say it just once, or you can use it like a mantra. And this worked for me way back when I was really struggling. There was one night when I just kept saying it over and over again, kept saying it over and over again. And it literally blocked out the negative interference. And I'm going to give you a little bonus tip that's very related to this mantra of I can have this thought, feeling, or sensation and still be okay. So here's like a little alternate that will sometimes work depending on your circumstances. You can say, this feeling is temporary. This feeling is temporary. So let's say you're having physical symptoms that indicate maybe you're being attacked. And you just keep saying, even if you can't put your hand on your heart, you could be lying in bed. You're like on your side. And you just keep saying in your mind, this feeling is temporary. This feeling is temporary. This feeling is temporary. So whatever mantra you can come up with that helps to negate some of the effects. Okay. All right. So just a reminder that I'm not going to be addressing questions that are completely off topic, even though I love those questions. We kind of went down a lot of rabbit holes and got off topic last time. So I've gotten really clear that we're not going to do that this time. But that's how but Susie, that sounds like a really good topic for a future class. I'm going to get my notebook ready. As we get ready to do tip number 3, now would be a good time that if you have requests for a future class, that you go ahead and share. And I'm writing down your topic idea, Susie, because I think that will fit really well with a topic that's coming up in the future. So thank you for that. Ocean Soul says, "This too shall pass," is another one. Yeah. So this is a great example because that phrasing doesn't work for me. It's like, it feels too formal, but it might work great for you. So hopefully what I shared with you with tip number 2, hopefully that will give you ideas and you can use exactly my words, or you totally have consent to change the words. Use whatever works. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So tip number 3 is pretty simple. So the first 2 tips, hopefully you wrote those down. Okay. Tip number 3 for addressing the trauma of spiritual warfare is to find some type of structured support. And I am here leading this YouTube live, just sharing this free information here. And I want you to do whatever you want with your next steps. You will know where you're guided. Okay. So structured support for you could be one of my programs, or it could be doing some other type of structured support. So structured support could be going through the self-study course, the Psychic Protection Solution, to help you go step by step in learning all the tools for protection. And there actually are lessons. There's a whole module that specifically addresses this, the trauma of spiritual warfare. There are clearing sessions, audio recorded clearing sessions, and other really helpful tools for you in that program. And then there's also the group mentoring program, which has access to the self-study program, course content, and then a whole lot more. So there's that. But consider getting some type of structured support. It could be working with a therapist, especially one who understands and is open to spiritual matters, because not all of them are. But see if you can find some type of support system, whatever that might be. Okay. Okay, Evelyn, I see yours. Your idea. That one might be a little mini lesson. Yes. Okay. I think we're all done for today. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic? Hi, Ms. Mystic. I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you today. We're just wrapping things up. Oh, awesome. So, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to stick around for a minute. I want to hear your thoughts on what we talked about today. And also, now is a good time. I'm writing down in my notebook any requests for future topics. Okay. Yes, Ms. Mystic, it is going to be a great replay. And when you go back and watch, my favorite, mind-blowing key point, because we went through 4 key points, is number 2. Number 2 key point. And when you watch the replay, I would love to hear your thoughts on key point number 2. You'll have to go and watch the replay and let me know. Sin City Mama says, my final thoughts are that we need to address all levels of trauma and we can't skip this spiritual stuff. Yes, absolutely. I'm a big advocate of therapy. Not everyone is. Some people think that it's like an insult or shameful or whatever. I totally respect that. I'm a big advocate for therapy, and I was interviewing a therapist to find out if I wanted to work with her, so that I'm receiving support because I'm giving support to a lot of other people. And one of the things that I noticed was that uh, in our first session that she was saying, like, well, I recommend that we not work on all the trauma and that we just work on nervous system stabilization. And I was like, okay, that's interesting because I think it needs to be both. I don't agree with what she was recommending. I think it needs to be both, like going back and addressing past trauma, and a good therapist, the right therapist is a good resource for that. And then also regulating nervous system. And now, by the way, more than ever, have you noticed everybody's talking nervous system regulation? There's like a bajillion courses out there. So you can find a lot of resources on, there's another term that's used, somatic practices. So if you find anything that says somatic practices, those are usually very calming for your system. All of that is very like en vogue right now in like the self-help industry. So you'll find a lot of resources. So you can like take the ideas from what I've shared today. You can go find things. There's probably tons of resources on nervous system regulation for free on YouTube, but there's also paid programs as well. Yeah. I want to read Evelyn's. So, like I mentioned before, I'm not going to read every single comment, but I see all of them. Evelyn says, I just want to tell everyone dealing with spiritual warfare, I'm so sorry you have to go through this, and my heart is with you all. Yeah. And I send the same, sending empathy, kindness, compassion to everyone going through these situations, especially those who have tried to look for support but haven't found it yet, or your support system doesn't understand. Sending you lots and lots of empathy. Yeah. Okay. So, just a reminder that this monthly YouTube Live is at a new day and time. So, mark your calendar that it is the first Thursday monthly. It used to be on Tuesdays. Now it's the first Thursday monthly. And currently it's at noon Pacific time. But no matter where you are in the world, just know that about a week before the YouTube live, I always I pre-schedule it, and I start announcing it and posting the link, and you can see that YouTube will show you the time in your time zone. So you don't even have to do the calculating. Okay. But if you want to calculate it and put it in your Google Calendar, it's noon Pacific time. So you can use your time zone converter, figure out what time that is for you, and join us live every month or watch the replay. Ocean Soul is saying a future request to do a live on healing from dark forces issues while struggling with addiction. I will consider that. I don't specialize in addiction, and I think that's more of a I wish we had more therapists who specialize in addiction and spiritual matters, but we don't have enough of those right now. I wrote it down though. I'll consider it. Sin City Mama says, welcome to the silent ones, those who aren't making comments. I hope you'll be back next time. Mm-hmm. Blessings, everyone. Sending you lots of love. Just a reminder of a couple of key concepts. Tip number 1, interrupt fear cycles early. Not with judgment, but just with gentle readjustment. If it's fear or negative thought loops, you go, oh, there it is, and refocus. Notice when you begin spiraling into those states, shift your focus to grounding, breathing, calming practices, creativity, music, or even just refocusing your mind onto something comforting and happy. And then tip number 2, your mantra. Deep breath. You can think of a mantra, right? For homework. I love giving homework. Think of what your mantra is going to be. And you can post it in the replay comments. Hand on your heart. Do you resonate with, I can have this sensation and still be okay? Or do you need a different mantra? This feeling is temporary. Yeah, whatever it is. Whatever your mantra is going to help negate some of those spiritual warfare effects. Because remember that dark forces want you to be in fear and overwhelm. Like there are things that will get thrown at you to encourage you to get off center and to get into fear or overwhelm. So the more you can do to ground and stay centered and focus on like the simple happy things, the more powerful you will be. You can be the Kung Fu master who knows that calm is your superpower. Thank you so much, everybody. Sending you lots of love. And I will see you later on the YouTube channel.